Becky. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys our Disney vacation recap. You guys probably know we go every year in May, and so I wanted to share this video with you guys and let you know kind of the highs, the lows, what we did, what was different, what was the same. So if you guys want to hear my recap of our trip to Disney World this year, then stay tuned. So if you have watched any of my Disney recap videos in the past, you probably know that we go to Disney every single year in May. It's a great time to go. The weather is usually good. Most kids are still in school. Our kids are not because we homeschool. So we're done by the time we go to Disney, and it's just a great time to go. And I've gone to Disney in May ever since I was like a teenager. So it's usually a great time to go. Last May, we did have a little bit of an issue, a lot of an issue with the weather. It rained every single day but one, and I don't mean like the typical Florida rain, like every day, all day, just drenched, annoyed, grumpy, soggy, pruny rain every single day in May last year. And I was like, what is the deal? And so when we were watching the weather leading up to this trip, it was looking like it was going to rain every day again. I was like, seriously, this cannot happen again. But we did have good weather. We only had 1.5 days where it rained even for a significant amount of time, and I'll get to that in a minute. But otherwise, the weather was really, really good. It did get really hot towards the end of our trip, and when we left, the whole forecast for the next week was like in the 90s. So we hit it right pretty good with like mid to upper 80s pretty much every single day. So that was amazing, because as much as you tell yourself that weather's not going to affect your trip, it really can, especially if it's rain and you're the type person like me that doesn't like getting wet and staying wet or being a constant state of sogginess. Then you try to be like, haha, we'll just wear a poncho and roll with it. And after a few days of slopping around the park, you just get like over it. So for me, weather can really make or break a Disney vacation. And so we got lucky and blessed this time that the weather was pretty much perfect almost every single day. Right off the bat, the first thing we did, and if you guys have watched my previous videos before, you will also know that we have always stayed at Disney's Port Orleans Riverside. It's my favorite resort. I've stayed there ever since I was a kid. Way back before it was even called Riverside. It used to be called Dixie Landings. They changed it to Riverside, I don't know, years and years ago. We've always stayed there. Well, a couple years in the very beginning when we had just one child, we did stay at All-Star Movies once and Pop Century. But other than that, we always go to Riverside. It's my very favorite resort. I personally feel like it's the best resort out of all of them, even the more expensive ones. It's just so beautiful and relaxing, and I love it. But we always stay in a royal room. My husband and my girls have never stayed in any of their other rooms. I have growing up, because royal rooms used to not be a thing. But they have only ever stayed in a royal room. So we got a royal room, as always. We got the river view, which is like the best view you can get. But unfortunately, our room was right behind a smoking section, which, if you guys know, Disney parks, all of the Disney parks now has made it where you're not allowed to smoke in the park. People that want to smoke have to actually go outside of the park entrance to smoke, which is amazing, except for a couple of issues. One of them being when you're waiting in line for bag check and security and all that. A lot of times the smoke from those smoking sections did kind of make its way over to that area, which was unfortunate. And we also did notice a few people sneaking cigarettes in the park, trying to be sly about it, but we did see that, which I figured was going to be a side effect of, the no smoking rule. But I feel like overall it's still a good change, and it's still going to, for the most part, keep people from smoking in the park. So that's a great change that they made in the park, although it has not been changed at the resort, which I realize it'd be a little harder to enforce there because people are staying there and sleeping there and, wanting to smoke or whatever. But I feel like the difference is that they put the smoking sections in like the walking path, which is particularly annoying at Riverside, because that's one of the benefits of Riverside is they have this really beautiful river that goes through the resort. And there's these really pretty walking paths and these beautiful trees and these beautiful gardens and flowers and bridges to go across and walk around. But the smoking sections are on the pathway. So every, however many feet, you're like, trying to hold your breath and get past it. And it really bothers me, like physically. I cannot stand that smell. But also, I don't want to breathe in other people's smoke. It's not good for you, and I don't appreciate it. And unfortunately, our room was right behind a smoking section. So if we were going to spend any time on our balcony whenever someone was out there smoking, we weren't going to get to enjoy it. I'm like, why did I pay the most? I paid the most you can pay at Riverside for that room. It was the most expensive room type they have. to be able to not enjoy it because it's right behind the smoker. So I said, can you move us? They said, sure, we'll move you over to this other building, which is way far away from the smokers. You won't even be near them. I was like, perfect. So we packed everything up, we lugged everything, got the bell services to come, take all of our bags, go to the other building. Guess what? That room was actually even closer behind the smoking section than the one we were in. So I was pretty perturbed about that. So I called back to the front desk and I was like, you guys sent us down here and we are even closer to the smokers than we were before. So I said, you know what, let's just not worry about it anymore. Let's just downgrade to a garden view room, standard, not royal room view. And my parents were in the similar building, and I was like, just downgrade us and move us over there because it's not worth paying all this extra money for this view when I can't enjoy it. So they told me what room I was going to go to, so I went over there and looked at it ahead of time. I made sure it was not near the smoking section, and we moved over there the next day. So this trip, long story, was the first time that we have not stayed in a royal room in probably the last 8 or 9 trips. So that was a little bit different, but it was still a really pretty room. It was a really pretty area, and I really, surprisingly, did not miss the royal room that much. Honestly, the main reason we even get a royal room to begin with is because my favorite area of the resort, which is the parterre building area, is a royal room. It used to not be. We always stayed in that building whenever possible and loved it, but then they changed that building, parterre, and another building to royal room. So if you wanted to stay in those buildings, you had to have a royal room. So we did that to be in those areas, but if it's going to be so close to the smoking section, then there really is no point in paying all that money for a view that I can't enjoy anyway. So downgraded to a garden view standard room, and it was a really nice room. So we did do that. It saved a little bit of money too, which they did give back to me. So that was nice. And Bell Services did help us move things around, as we moved rooms. It would have been nice if they had given me the correct information to begin with when they moved us the first time, to say, no, we're moving you away from the smokers, when it was really, in fact, even closer to the smokers. So that was a little bit of an annoyance, but they did come and move our stuff for us, so that was nice. So that was something different that we haven't done in years, was staying in a different type of room, a different area of the resort. Our building was right next to the pool, so that was nice because even though we're not pool people in the daytime, a lot of times we like to go, I don't say a lot of times, but sometimes we like to go after we've been to the park. If it's early enough, the girls want to go swimming. I don't swim, but my husband will swim with them, or they'll swim, together while we watch. So we went to the pool twice, which was fun. When we went to Animal Kingdom, the girls had told me before we left, and if you watch my Fast Pass Choices video, then you would know this. They said they wanted to ride Flight of Passage as many times as possible, which is at Animal Kingdom. I think it's everyone's favorite ride of all 4 of us. It's like our favorite ride. So we rode that about 4 or 5 times. We had Fast Passes for it quite a few times, and then one time we did wait in line for it. And we also saw Kevin in Animal Kingdom, which Kevin is the bird from the movie Up, and it's actually a girl. But if you've seen the movie, you know why she's called Kevin. And I had heard that she was a new character that was roaming around the park. It's not actually like you have to go and meet her. She kind of roams around the park just kind of freely. So that was really fun to see her because it's such a massive costumed character. And that was really fun. And her little tiny wings that she flaps. So that was really cute and really neat to see that. And one other thing that was really a highlight of this trip was both girls were really super into pin trading. My oldest daughter has done it for years. My youngest has done it for the last few years, but she wasn't terribly into it. Now they both were really into it, and it was just really fun to buy pins and have them trade them and get things they wanted, and well, that was really neat. And speaking of pins, another really fun thing that happened was when we were at Epcot, we saw these people that had these huge bulletin boards, like two or three of these bulletin boards about this big. And then they had all of these books, like these giant books that were full of pin pockets. And they had, there had to be thousands and thousands of pins, like just laid out in these books and on these bulletin boards that they were just park guests that she said they come there about once a month and they just set up all of their pins. It's like their whole family's collection. And you're able to trade with them. They are a little bit harder to trade with than Disney cast members. Disney cast members, as far as I know, will trade you anything. They actually were very specific about, like, if you wanted to give them this certain pin, then she would say yes or no, or maybe she would only accept 2 pins for one of hers. So it was a little bit different of a haggling process. But it was really neat to see that many pins, some of them that were really old and really unique, to have all those pins in one place like that that belongs to one family. I thought that was pretty fun, and it was so sunny and hot at that area. Otherwise, we would have stayed there for even longer just looking at all of their pins because they had so many. Another really neat thing that we saw was the Disney Skyliner system, which is their gondola system, which is going to open up, I think, later this year. It's another method of transportation to get you around some of the resorts and parks on Disney property. And they're really cute because even though they are just a typical kind of square-shaped gondola system, they each have their own Disney character kind of overlay on the outside. So there was like Donald and Mickey and Minnie and a bunch of different ones. So it's really, really neat to see them, even though they're not able to be used yet by guests, to see them like they were, some of them were wrapped up. A lot of them they had unwrapped and they were kind of running up and down the track, just like practice runs, I guess. So that was really neat to see because probably on our next trip to Disney, we're going to actually be riding in one, but to see them kind of before they even are able to be ridden by people was really neat. We also got to see a little bit of Tron that was being made at Magic Kingdom. It's actually back behind the People Mover kind of area in Tomorrowland. So when you ride the People Mover, you can see big, full, unobstructed view of them building the Tron roller coaster. So that was really neat to see. And also at Hollywood Studios, we got to see a little sneak peek of Galaxy's Edge. You can see a little bit of it over the wall, and you can also see it when you're on Tower of Terror when the doors open when you're at the top. If you look out kind of towards your left, you're going to see those buildings and all those rock features and stuff they're building for Galaxy's Edge, which opens later this year. So that's really exciting to see. Even though I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, I'm not a Star Wars fan at all, really, I still think it's really neat, and I know that Disney's going to do it just the best they can. It's going to be incredible. So even if you're not a Star Wars fan, like I'm not, it was really exciting to see that kind of behind-the-scenes look. Also, Spaceship Earth is going to be closing, I believe, later this year for refurbishments. I'm not really sure how long it's going to be closed, so we rode that to be able to get like that one last look at it the way that it is now before it closes down, because the next time we see it, it's going to be a little bit different. One thing that was really neat, when we were riding the monorail from, I think we were riding it from Chef Mickey's at the Contemporary to Epcot, my husband had started talking to this monorail worker, and I was talking to a different one. And so when we got in the monorail, the guy comes back in and he goes to my husband and he's like, "Hey, are you guys going to Magic Kingdom?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're going there tomorrow." So the guy reaches in his pocket and gives him 12 fast passes for any ride at Magic Kingdom that we can use on our Magic Kingdom day. And it didn't expire until the end of May. So even if we had not gone that day we planned to, or we went back a different day, they weren't going to expire until the end of May. I've never had a cast member ever do that for us for like no reason. So that was really fun and a nice bonus to our trip, because we shared some of them with my parents and kind of wrote things together. And then we actually, they let us use them at Epcot, even though they said Magic Kingdom. She let us use them to ride Soarin', so that was really fun. So that was just a little magical extra that happened on this trip that doesn't happen necessarily on every trip. A couple of things that were not so fun was my husband actually dropped his phone at SeaWorld, which I do have a SeaWorld visit recap video that I don't know if it's gone up or not yet, but I did a separate video about our day at SeaWorld and kind of our experience there, which I forgot to mention on that video about him dropping his phone. But he did drop his phone at SeaWorld, cracked the screen, broke a pixel, which is annoying because he's only had his phone for about a month. So we're kind of in the process now of like getting that switched out. That was unfortunate. Also, he got bitten by something while we were there. It was towards the end of the trip. We don't really know where it happened. He kept saying he thought it happened in the hotel room, and I was like, it didn't happen in the hotel room, because he was sharing a bed with my daughter and she didn't have any bites. Nobody else had bites but him. So I have a feeling it happened at Animal Kingdom because he had been wearing his sandals, and I have a feeling that's where it happened because he's got at least 1, if not 3 bites on his foot. It's really hard to tell because it swelled up so much and got red, and his red spot ironically is in the shape of a Mickey. Like, it's a swollen red Mickey shape on his foot. But we got really concerned because his foot did swell so big that he couldn't even hardly walk, and he couldn't move his toes. Like, it was really painful. So he ended up going to the urgent care center one night around like 11:30 at night, because I believe they closed at midnight. So me and the girls stayed back at the hotel and got ready for bed, and he went to the urgent care center. They gave him an antibiotic. He's getting better now. But it did throw a little bit of a hiccup in our trip, because that one day when it was really, really swollen, he couldn't even walk on it, and we were supposed to go to Animal Kingdom, and he's like, well, what? I'm like, what do you do? You're going to stay back here in the hotel by yourself? So we went to Animal Kingdom and rented a scooter for him to ride on that day, and so that really helped to keep him off his foot. It was unfortunate because it was an added expense of $50, which was kind of annoying, but it's okay. It kept everybody together. He was able to go to the park. And not ever having been with somebody in a wheelchair at Disney, I really wasn't sure what to expect as far as how we would be treated. And I really appreciate the fact that they didn't ask questions like, why do you need this? And when we went to all the rides and they see him in a scooter and they see us together with someone in a scooter, they were very accommodating about like whether or not can you get out of your wheelchair? Do you want to stay in your wheelchair? Here's a special section for you to pull through. They were very, very nice about helping us in this situation. And also whenever we would get on a ride and he would get off the scooter, whenever we got back off the ride, they had moved the scooter to the exit so that it was right there waiting for him when he got off. So that was really, really nice. I think they handled it really well. So overall, it was just a really great trip, and I think it's really fun too. You get used to having fast passes and you think, oh, I can't wait in this line without a fast pass. It's 45 minutes. And I guess it depends on what it is. Everybody has those rides where you're willing to wait for and you're not willing to wait for. For us, we are willing to wait for Flight of Passage, which we did. We did it in October because we didn't have any fast passes for Flight of Passage, and we did it once this time because even though we'd already ridden it like 3 or 4 times, everybody really wanted to ride it again. So we waited about 2 or 2.5 hours for Flight of Passage on just one time, just to ride it one time. And you might think that the time goes really slowly, but a lot of the rides at Disney, they're all under your cover, or they have a fan, or there's shade and different things like that. And the queue for Pandora for Flight of Passage is actually really nice if you don't have a fast pass. If you're in the standby line, you actually get to see a lot more of the foliage and kind of the theming that they've done by standing in line. So it's really not that bad, and we always find fun things to do to play together as a family. And I honestly feel like some of our best times have been had waiting in line, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it really is. I mean, I wouldn't want to wait every ride 2.5 hours, but one here and there, it's not bad. And we'll play games. And one thing we did in the Flight of Passage line this time, it was really late, and it was also late in the trip. So like we've been there, I think 5 days already, 5 days in a row at the park. And we're all kind of a little giddy anyway, like loopy. And so me and the girls were playing this game where like there's a bunch of like rows in the queue, and like there's behind rocks and there's like all these different things. So we were standing in line, and there's a hand, like somebody's hand from the other side of the wall. They kind of had their hand in this little hole in the rocks. So I thought, oh, it'll be funny to kind of tickle them and like turn around and be real casual like it wasn't us. So I did that, and the girls were really surprised that I did that because I'm usually so like shy and like don't talk to strangers too often kind of thing. So that was really funny. So it kind of started a game we were playing. We weren't trying to be annoying, so if this sounds annoying to you, I'm sorry, but we were trying to just be playful about it. So then we did that. They thought it was funny. So the next time we would round the corner, it'd be kind of a new group of people, and we would kind of see like who we could like poke, like tap on them, and then look, So the funny thing was, my husband the whole time, and he's in his scooter, by the way, in line. So he's in, going through all the lines. He's kind of in his own world. Me and the girls are like laughing and cracking up. So finally we tell him, it's like, okay, you're going to play this game with us, and the next person you're going to touch is a kid. So find a kid that you can do that to. And then, we thought he understood the whole thing we were playing, that those people are not supposed to see us do it. So here he is in his scooter. He's already kind of shorter anyway because he's sitting in the scooter. So this girl in the next line, he just kind of taps on her and goes, and I just busted out laughing because I was like, he totally missed the whole point of the game, that you're supposed to not let them know it was you. So I start laughing, and I've got the giggles, and I thought, this poor kid probably is like, Daddy, some guy waved at me, But it was really funny, and I have this really horrible laugh when I get really, really like hysterically tickled at something. I kind of just squeak like, it's really terrible. You guys don't want to ever experience that. But I started doing that, and it was really funny. And so the more I did that, the girls would laugh, and it was just so funny. And so sometimes it's the little things like that that have nothing to do with a ride or an experience that really stand out in my mind that are the most fun things of a trip. So that was really funny, and there seems to be something like that every year. Every year there's some kind of family like inside joke that we tend to carry on throughout that week. And so that was a funny one. And then also the girls saying bruh like, you know, how people say bruh, like brother. Because when we were on the way to Florida, we saw this guy just like flash past us on the interstate, and his license plate said bruh, B-R-U-U-H. And so the whole trip, whenever something weird happened or whatever, they'd go bruh. My husband would do it too. It's not funny. I know it's not funny to you guys, but it was funny to us. So just laugh because you are being nice. Anyway, that was funny. And then when we checked out, it was always sad. My youngest took it really hard this year. I don't know why. And, you know, she was excited to get home and see Loki and Bean, but for some reason, it really hit her hard that we were leaving. And so she was not happy about it. And so when I went to check out in the morning, I asked the people at the front desk, I was like, do you have anything special that I can give the girls, you know, kind of take with us? They do have the buttons, and they have, if you're staying at Riverside, they do have like these Royal Room scrolls. We already had those from previous years. So she's like, well, let me see what I can find. So she goes into the back room, and she comes back with balloons. She had one of the big Mickey balloons, like the big Mickey head on the inside, and she had a Frozen balloon. And somebody had left those and told her, like a previous guest, they were brand new, like they were fully inflated and everything. And she's like, somebody left these and said, here, give these to somebody that wants them. And so she gave them to us. And so the girls are really happy that we got to take those home, and they're actually still in their rooms right now, even a week or so later. So that was really nice. So you never know what you're going to get if you ask. I mean, nicely, of course, and you don't want to expect anything necessarily, but we've had things like that happen, you know, pretty much every year. Something will happen. Either we ask for it, or a cast member will just give it to us, like the monorail guy with the fast passes. Like, stuff like that happens if you are nice, and if you ask, and if you strike up conversations with the people that work there. Sometimes, you know, you never really know what's going to prompt somebody to give you something. But it's really fun when it happens, because it really does add magic to your trip. So, my throat is like so dry. But anyway, that is pretty much a recap of our Disney trip. If you want to see like our fast passes and our dining reservations that we had for this trip, that is linked for you guys in my description box in my Disney playlist. Every Disney video that I have ever made is in that playlist about packing and cleaning out the van to get ready to go, and saving money on Disney, and what we put in the bags for the girls in the car to like keep them entertained. All of that stuff is in my Disney playlist, as well as any previous year's Disney recap videos if you want to see those. So check that Disney playlist out if you're interested. Also, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and tap that little notification bell. That way you'll be notified every single week when I upload new videos. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.